Okay. Topic number one, I'm going to be doing a few of these topic videos. This is going to be on the mess that is the confusion between what is anti-Jewish, what is anti-Semitic, what is Zionist, okay, and the relationship between the USA and Israel, and the hierarchy, or really lack thereof, among Jews. For starters, Zionism is the belief in theory Jewish people, okay, having a right to return to a area of the Middle East that for not very long a period of time, but for some period of time, the people of the Jewish religion called their home, which is to say, I'm Jewish. It was indeed, and to me it still is, a spiritual place of importance, a spiritual, some degree of homeland. But Zionism is, as it is indeed practiced, it is the belief that this state must be a political and a actual nation state of Israel. This is not supported by the majority of Jews in either percent or number, in terms of, and yet I'm not going to deny, it's in a lot of prayer, of Jewish literature, to pray for the state of Israel. One of the confusing parts about this is that in prayer books, in terms of translation, Israel is the word for Jews often, and yet it's not really correct. But it's a lot of translations, nonetheless. So, and yet, to me, Israel, it's a spiritual center, but it's a long time ago, and it's thusly where I often turn in terms of facing for prayer. But that's about it. It's a place to go on pilgrimage. That I would go on a pilgrimage, but I'm not a Zionist. I am Jewish, and a supporter of BDS. Boycott of Israeli goods. I'm not sure if it's actually working, but it's working enough so that the Israeli government has put out funds to try and stop it and try and block it. So to me, that's at least good enough. Now, then there's this term anti-Semitic. Well, Semites, okay, are people who speak and or write and or read in Semitic languages. Now, that would really be, in terms of what Semitic languages that exist today, right now there are two. That there is Arabic and there is Hebrew. I believe there is a third main branch, but there was also at one point Aramaic. I believe I'm missing another term, but another language. But those are the basic things, and therefore, since we're talking about Arabic and Hebrew, well, most of my prayers are said in Hebrew. I speak it a little bit, probably at the level of a 2-year-old, but I know how to read it in terms of to read Hebrew block print. In as much as I could write in English, my arthritis mainly, I can write in Hebrew, in terms of Hebrew block print. Most of the prayers that I know, I've memorized them in Hebrew, so I also recite most of said customary prayers in Hebrew. Therefore, in that extent, I am a Semite. Some people might say that since it's not really my mother tongue, I don't speak it primarily, that I'm not. Yeah, that's a debatable point. Furtherly, you could argue in terms of the fact that most Jews don't even, never even learn to read it or write it, as I did, never mind speak it, that in fact most Jews are not Semites at all, and or since they're not of Middle Eastern origin, via converting later or what have you, that therefore they're not Semites. But in terms of Arabic, there are a whole lot of Muslims, more so than there are Jews, who definitely not only do they pray in Arabic, but they read it, they write it in said language, and they speak it daily. And that's why to say Semites and or anti-Semitic, what, in spite of later stilting to say, well, anti-Semitic is anti-Jewish, it's really not. That was a stilting designed to create disinformation. That was a deliberate split, and it is a wrong that really needs to be corrected. This is why anti-Muslim and anti-Jewish, I don't really like the term Islamophobic, but I'll kind of accept it. I mean, I get it. It's popular enough. It's close enough. But I use the term anti-Jewish and I use the term anti-Muslim. And I really, occasionally, for the most part, I never use the term anti-Semitic because it's wrong and because it artificially stilts the issue. So, now, most of the time, in terms of, by the way, in terms of Zionism, there are also people who will support the state of Israel and will stilt that. And I understand this term to say, I support the nation state of Israel. I want it to be a pluralistic society of a democracy. That I'd accept. But the fact is, it's nothing like what it actually is. Frankly, that's part of what I was taught when I went to religious school, is that it is, but I've since gotten enough proof it's not. It is nowhere near a pluralistic democracy. Never mind a Jewish state, which it can't be both. It needs to be one or the other. And so I am anti-imperialism, and therefore I am against what is going on in Israel with continued power grabs and land grabs. I am in favor of still for Jews like myself to view Israel as a pilgrimage site, to view it as, yes, whenever you can in your life, you should try and go there once to visit, to see the sights, to feel the land beneath your feet, and then to go to wherever you really call home. But that's different completely from what is happening right now with mass murders occurring. There's not just the killing of poor people within Palestine and other neighboring countries that are Muslim primarily. It's also within Israel that there's a lot of racism. So it's both apartheid and it's racist. This is another set of terms that I get confused, that I hear that are also confused. Apartheid in terms of it separating Muslims and Jews. Racist in that it was the most recent group of Jews to even be acknowledged were Beta Israel, which are black Jews. and therefore, and there's a huge problem whenever descendants of converts or converts themselves that are black go to Israel and try and interact. They're often brutalized, or at the very least severely harassed, because it is extremely racist within said country. So it's not just apartheid. It is also racist within it. And it is very much imperialist. And 2 cycles ago, Netanyahu got in via election fraud. This past cycle, he didn't. It's just as extreme as every other one of the candidates was. He showed how awful lesser of 2 evils can get you, as we've seen in the United States of America. Both countries are wrong. Both are a mess. One of their biggest linkages is weapons, in terms of trading. Another one is pharmacological substances, which is just a huge, big pharma, drug companies. In addition to war, Israel also exports a whole lot of medications. And that's one of the reasons why, if people are trying to avoid all drugs, avoid everything that either is made or is invented in Israel, in some cases they can't, because it'll kill them. So this is another reason that I kind of stress doing your research. And understanding what the ties between those 2 countries are, between Israel and the United States are. It's weapons and it's pharmaceuticals. Those are the biggest 2 things that are traded, that are shared. It's not democracy, because neither country is a democratically run government. Election fraud in both countries within the past 10 years shows that fact. And it was pretty bold in both countries. Both countries' leaders are a complete mess. Netanyahu, for anyone trying to say he's a man of the people, he was Ivy frickin' League school educated in the United States of America. Okay? He's so the very idea that you're going to say man of the people, no. Nor is Trump. Silver spoon in both their mouths, to put it mildly. So, again, I encourage people, if you get one thing out of this talk, remember, the term for anti-Jewish bigotry, which there is a lot of in this country, but it's different. It is bigotry against people who are Jewish, which is to say doing things like demanding that they do business on a Saturday Sabbath, demanding that they work on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, refusing to allow kosher goods to be sold, keeping liquor stores, refusing to allow them to be opened on a Sunday. Those are things, that are bigoted against Jews. But saying that you're anti-imperialist Israel, that's your anti-Zionist, that's your anti-imperialism. Shalom.